Hollywood went into this weekend with the safest lineup it could build: a family animation franchise, a Pixar sequel, a superhero movie, a patriotic holiday release. Just about every box checked. And the box office still looked like a studio executive trying to explain why, technically, number one only lost a little money. Because, yes, Minions and Monsters won the weekend, but it won soft. Toy Story 5 came in second, and it is still the movie doing the real damage. Young Washington opened in third and beat a DC movie. Supergirl fell into fourth, down 74% in its second weekend, and a $750,000 horror movie is still out here embarrassing the entire budget logic of the industry. So, no, this is not another Supergirl failed video. That part's obvious. This is about the bigger problem. Hollywood's safe bets just failed the box office test. Keep your expectations low and let's get into the receipts. Let's start with number one because even the winner did not win clean. Minions and Monsters made $36.4 million domestically over the 3-day weekend. Because it opened on Wednesday, the 5-day total came in at $61.4 million. Globally, it reached around $160 million in its debut week. Now, let me be very clear about one thing. This is not a disaster, not even close. This is not Warner Brothers lighting a pile of money on fire, calling it a cinematic universe, and then asking why the audience did not bring the marshmallows. Illumination, they have a tighter cost model than most studios. The reported production budget here is around $85 million. So Minions and Monsters does not need Avengers money to survive. But not a disaster and healthy franchise momentum are not the same sentence. Here's the receipt that matters. This is the 7th film in the Despicable Me Minions franchise, and this domestic opening is the lowest in the franchise's history. The original Despicable Me opened to $56.4 million back in 2010. So the newest entry in the franchise opened roughly $20 million below the old domestic floor before we even adjust for inflation. Oh, hat tip you inflation bros out there. Just saying. That's the tell. Minions won the weekend, but the win came with the limp. And yes, international numbers help. The global start is stronger than the domestic number. But domestic softness still matters because it tells you something about urgency. I mean, this is July 4th. Happy Independence Day. This is prime family movie territory. If Minions cannot guarantee a dominant domestic opening here, that does not mean the franchise is dead. It means the automatic audience is not automatic anymore. And that is the theme of the entire weekend. Hollywood keeps treating brand recognition like it's the same thing as demand, and it's not. Brand recognition gets someone to say, "Oh yeah, I remember that." Demand gets them to buy tickets. Those are very different things. Now let's talk about the movie that technically lost the weekend, but is probably the real winner here. Coming in at number 2 is Toy Story 5. Now, Toy Story 5 made $31 million in its third weekend. That put it behind Minions on the weekend chart. But this is where rankings can lie to you if you do not look at the full picture. Toy Story 5 is already at $360 million domestic and roughly $764 million worldwide. That is not a soft family film. That is a freight train that happened to be in week 3 while Minions was in week 1. And this is the cleanest contrast of the weekend. Minions won the battle. Toy Story 5 is winning the war. Now, I know we can all roll our eyes at another Toy Story sequel. Hollywood's solution to everything is apparently to dig up the toy box, shake it until money falls out, and call it storytelling. But the audience is clearly showing up, and that matters. Because Toy Story 5 proves the problem is not automatically sequels. It is not automatically franchises. It's not automatically IP. The problem is trust. Toy Story still has enough trust that audiences are willing to give it another shot. That is the difference. Some brands are living off trust. Some brands are living off recognition. Recognition gets you a nod. Trust gets you a ticket. And this weekend is the cleanest proof of that you are going to get all summer. Because Toy Story's not winning just because people know what Toy Story is. People know what Supergirls is. People know what Minions are. People know what DC is. The difference is that the audience still believes Toy Story might give them value for the money. That is what Hollywood keeps missing. The logo opens the door. The movie still has to walk through it. Then there is Young Washington from Angel Studios. $20.8 million. Coming in at number 3. On paper, this should not be the movie punching above its weight. It's not a superhero movie. It's not a Pixar sequel. It's not a billion-dollar Yellow Menace franchise. It is a historical drama about George Washington's early military career, timed to America's 250th birthday celebration. A movie aimed at a specific audience, released at a specific moment, with a clear reason to exist. It found an audience. Wild, I know. Who could have predicted that knowing who your movie is for might matter? I mean, come on. Studios love to chase for a quadrant appeal. They want everything to be for everyone. Families, teens, critics, international audiences, Reddit, TikTok, exhausted parents, theme park guests, shareholders, and one guy in Burbank who keeps saying, "Can we make it more like Barbie?" And then a smaller movie comes along, knows exactly who it's talking to, and the big brands look confused. Young Washington did not need to beat Minions. It did not need to beat Toy Story, but it beat Supergirl. And when a patriotic historical drama opens above the second weekend of a DC superhero movie, you do not just have a Supergirl problem. You have a studio assumption problem. Because Warner Brothers had the logo, Angel had the audience. And this weekend, the audience mattered more. That is the part Hollywood should be studying. Not whether every movie should suddenly be a patriotic historical drama. Please, for the love of God and everything, do not learn that lesson. The lesson is targeting. The lesson is timing. The lesson is knowing who is actually buying the ticket instead of assuming a brand name will do the work for you. Coming in at number 4, we get the Supergirl. And I want to be clear, this is not the whole video. The internet has already autopsied, cremated, reassembled, and re-autopsied Supergirl with thumbnails that look like someone set a Spirit Halloween store on fire. But the second weekend number still matters because it confirms everything else we are talking about. Supergirl made $9.6 million domestic in weekend 2. That is a 74% drop. Yeah, I said it, 74%. That is not a normal superhero drop. A healthy tentpole hold is usually much better than that. A movie with serious word-of-mouth problems drops hard. A movie the audience has actively rejected drops 70 plus. 74 is not a bad hold. 74 is the audience saying, we were not that interested in the first time, and we definitely are not bringing a friend the second time. Put that against the broader reported numbers, a domestic opening around 37 to 38 million, a worldwide opening around 68 million, a reported production budget north of 170 million before marketing. The math is brutal. And this is why the Supergirl number is useful today. Not because we need another video yelling DC is dead. Not because one movie explains the entire future of James Gunn's DCU. But because Supergirl shows what happens when Hollywood mistakes franchise placement for audience demand. The character was positioned as part of a bigger universe. The movie was coming after Superman. The studio clearly wanted this to feel like the next DCU puzzle piece. But audiences do not buy tickets because the studio says a puzzle exists. They buy tickets because they care about the piece. You cannot spreadsheet your way into emotional investment. You cannot tell people this matters later if they do not care now. That used to work better when Marvel had trained audiences to trust the homework. But once the trust goes, the homework model collapses. Then a character like Supergirl is not a world-building opportunity. She is a $170 million test of whether the audience still cares. And this weekend, that answer was not subtle. Here's the part that should make studio executives lose sleep. It's not just that some big movies are underperforming, it's that smaller movies keep hanging around and making the big spending look ridiculous. Obsession, made for a reported $750,000, has become one of the biggest return on budget stories of the year. Backrooms has also turned into a massive low-budget win. Now, no, this is not a cheat code. Horror is not a spreadsheet solution. You cannot just write creepy hallway on a napkin, spend $5, and magically get a box office monster. Although, given how some studios operate, I'm sure someone has already scheduled that meeting. The point is not make everything cheap. The point is that cost discipline changes the math entirely. When a $750,000 movie connects, it does not need to become $1 billion global phenomenon to be a monster. When a $170 million movie superhero misses, it needs miracles. Hollywood has built too many movies that require perfection. Perfect opening, perfect international rollout, perfect second weekend hold, perfect merchandise, perfect sequel setup, perfect streaming afterlife. And if any part of that machine fails, the movie is not just underperforming, it's radioactive. Meanwhile, a smaller film can overperform because it was never built like a financial hostage situation in the first place. Safe IP is becoming one of the most dangerous phrases in Hollywood because safe IP encourages unsafe spending. Executives look at a known brand and convince themselves the floor is higher than it is. Then the audience reminds them that floors collapse too. So here's what this weekend actually proved. Hollywood still got an audience. Theaters are not dead. People are going. They're just being more selective. They will show up for Toy Story 5 because trust still earns urgency. They will sample Minions even if domestic ceiling is lower than it used to be. They will turn out for a targeted movie at exactly the right cultural moment. They will support small, buzzy, low-budget films with word of mouth behind them. What they will not do, at least not automatically, is bail out every expensive franchise bet just because the studio recognizes the logo. Brand recognition is someone knowing what your thing is. Urgency is someone rearranging their weekend to see it. Those are very different things. And once audiences put you in the wait for streaming bucket, good luck climbing out. Marketing can buy awareness. It cannot buy trust. So here's the actual shape of the weekend. Minions won, but softly. Toy Story lost the weekend, but is winning the war. Young Washington found its audience because it knew who that audience was. Low-budget movies keep humiliating the cost structure, and Supergirl delivered the kill shot receipt with a 74% second weekend collapse. That's the story. Not every franchise is dead. Not audiences hate theaters. Not one superhero movie killed a genre. The story is that the audiences are sorting the shelf. They're deciding which brands still deserve theatrical money and which ones can wait for a Tuesday night on the couch. And if Hollywood keeps confusing awareness with demand, July 4th is going to look less like a holiday weekend and more like a warning label. But hey, I'm sure the next $200 million brand extension will fix everything. Because if there's one thing Hollywood is famous for, it is learning the correct lesson immediately and never repeating the same mistake with a larger budget. This has been The Critical Nerd. Keep your expectations low and your receipts high, and I'll see you in the next one.